All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, October 11th Board of Education meeting. We are going to call this meeting to order at 7:03, and we are going to start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, before we get into our student presentation, we just have a few items. I need two motions to add an additional letter of resignation to our agenda, as well as add executive session.
Yep.
Tim, would you like to make the motion?
Sure. So I'll move to add item 5.4 as a retirement for Mr. Richard Hanberry, teacher of science here at the high school.
We have a motion by Tim. Do we have a second? Second by Carrie. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, 7-0. Moving on to the next motion, to enter into executive session to discuss a personnel issue after the meeting.
So I will move to add on item 7H to discuss a personnel matter where we will go into executive session and to discuss.
Do we have inviting
We'll work on that later for the motion.
the superintendent?
That's later.
Okay, I'll second that.
So the motion by Tim, the second by Carrie. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 7-0. Thank you. And I just want to, this is Tim's last meeting, so he is not going to be on the ballot next month, so I want to thank you for your service to the Board of Ed. I do not know what our board will do without the Roberts Rules expert. Someone is going to have to read the book and figure that out, because unless you're tuning into the meetings and we can text you, but I don't think we're supposed to do that either. But thank you for your service, and thank you for all that you've done for our Board of Education. We wish you well. How long has it been?
11 years.
11 years. So thank you for your 11-year commitment to the students of our town. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add to Tim?
I'd just like to personally thank Tim for all the work he's done with policy over the years, and just being that go-to person if you need something, being available, being on the board. There's also meetings that take place outside of the monthly board meeting, and Tim has always been part of those, and his willingness to provide his time, his skill, and his talent. So, Tim, for me personally, I want to thank you for that. I really appreciate it, and wish you the best and your newfound time that you're going to have.
Yes. And I also would like to wish Melissa and Jamie the best of luck. Your names will be on the ballot as well. And for anyone interested, we do have a candidate forum that will be held at Berlin High School on October 24th at 6 p.m. You can watch it on YouTube, either live streamed after the fact or come in person. But that will give you information about the 6 candidates running for board. And again, best of luck to those running. Anyone else have anything they'd like to add before we move on? All right, now what we've all been waiting for, our kindergarten students. It's so nice to see you all here this evening. I know you're probably a little nervous, but we are really excited to see what you guys have to share. So who are we turning it over to?
We're going to turn it over to Principal Meg Soroyce from Willard School.
Perfect.
Good evening, everyone. Willard School is proud and honored to be the first presentation of the new school year. Thank you to Superintendent Benigni and the Board of Education for this opportunity. Tonight we are joined by our kindergarten team, Mrs. Minetti, Ms. Endy, Mrs. Souza, and Ms. Haggerty, who along with their wonderful students are going to show you how the skills students are taught in kindergarten lay the foundation for all future learning. So now we're going to turn it over to our kindergarten teachers and students.
Good evening. I am Miss Minetti, and I have with me here my kindergartners, William, Callie, and Stella. And we are from Willard School. We're here to talk to you about building community in the kindergarten classroom. Community building is crucial at the beginning of any school year for any grade, but especially in kindergarten, because in a lot of cases, kindergarten is a student's first exposure to school, and we want to make sure they feel welcomed and excited about learning as a class community from the start. Some of the ways that we build community in our classroom is through a daily morning meeting, which includes a morning greeting. We will meet on the rug for our meeting daily, and we always greet one another right away to make all students and adults feel welcome in our classroom. So, to get us started off this evening, my friends and I are going to teach you our morning greeting, and we are going to start with us and then move our way down the board so that the board can introduce themselves using our greeting. So, are you ready, friends? Chicka chicka boom boom, look who's in our room.
William.
Good evening, William. Chicka chicka boom boom, look who's in our room.
Callie.
Good evening, Callie. Chicka chicka boom boom, look who's in our room.
Stella.
Good evening, Stella. Chicka chicka boom boom, look who's in our room. Mrs. Minetti. Chicka chicka boom boom, look who's in our room.
Melissa Gibbons.
Good evening, Mrs. Gibbons. Chicka chicka boom boom, look who's in our room.
Tim Oakes.
Good evening, Tim. Chicka chicka boom boom, look who's in our room.
Brian Benigni.
Good evening, Mr. Benigni. Chicka chicka boom boom, look who's in our room.
Julia Dennis.
Good evening, Mrs. Dennis. Chicka chicka boom boom, look who's in our room.
Tracy Sisti.
Good evening, Tracy Sisti. Chicka chicka boom boom, look who's in our room.
Carrie Sassu.
Good evening, Carrie. Chicka chicka boom boom, look who's in our room.
Gina Nabby.
Good evening. Say your name for me again.
Gina Nabby.
Good evening, Gina. Chicka chicka boom boom, look who's in our room.
Matt Tenza.
Good evening, Matt Tenza. Chicka chicka boom boom, look who's in our room.
Ian Saunders.
Say that for me one more time.
Ian Saunders.
Good evening, Ian Saunders. All right, nice job, friends. Some of the other ways that we build community in kindergarten from the start is by doing a name study in our first social studies unit. During our phonics time, we do a daily name study until all of the students' names have been studied. This includes having the day being all about them. We look at the uppercase and lowercase letters in their name, look at the letter that represents the first sound in their name, clap out their syllables, and we cheer it. This helps the students learn each other's names to build a community and launches our letter and sound study. And then lastly, our first social studies unit in kindergarten in Berlin is finding out about ourselves and each other. We do this through making a class rules contract together, making all about me posters, which my friends are going to share with you in a second, and sharing about the important people in our lives. When we share our All About Me posters, the students get to have the social studies day all about them. They get to sit in a special chair up with me. They get to tell their classmates all about their family and what's special about them, and then their classmates get to ask them questions. So, William, can you tell everyone in the audience and the Board of Education what you want to be when you grow up?
A paleontologist.
And why do you want to be a paleontologist?
Because they dig for dinosaur bones.
Oh, that's amazing. Callie, what do you want to be when you grow up?
A ballerina.
And why do you want to be a ballerina?
Because I like it.
You like it? That's awesome. And Stella, what do you want to be when you grow up?
A doctor.
And why do you want to be a doctor?
Because I want to be it.
Awesome. You friends are amazing. Nice job. Proud of you. All right, so in kindergarten, we start the year with some early literacy. What we do for the whole year in kindergarten is really building the foundation for reading for our students. We start with concepts of print, which is how print works, and we want our students to understand that we are reading from left to right, top to bottom. We want our students to match each word with a point underneath so that we are tracking our reading correctly. We learn about our letters, and we learn that our letters create words, and that those words convey a message and meaning. So we know that when we're reading that print to understand what is on the page and the message that is coming through our books. We do a lot of practice with big books and independent book bins. We work on our letters and letter sounds. We want to build that alphabet knowledge for our students, making sure that they understand that each letter that makes the word has its own sound to then create the word. We do daily activities of beginning sounds, understanding what each letter looks like, if a letter is a tall letter, a small letter, sounds that the letters make. We have been creating a alphabet book with animals, so we do a representational drawing of different animals that begin with each letter, and that representational drawing is the start to our writing. So we do our drawing every single day. We start to label the drawings with the beginning sounds that we hear. So a lot of students are drawing their sun and now adding a label that has the letter S to represent that the sun and hearing that sound in the word sun. And finally, we do phonemic awareness every day, which builds that is really the foundation for that successful reading. So we do rhyming, we do beginning sounds, final sounds, blending, segmenting. It's all done orally, and our students practice these every day. So we're going to show you some of our phonemic awareness practice. Are you ready? All right. I'm going to say 2 words. You say them back to me. Give me a thumbs up if they rhyme, thumbs down if they don't rhyme. Ready? All right. Case, race.
Case, race.
Nice job. Plan, bike.
Plan, bike.
Nice job. Cat, mat.
Cat, mat.
Good job. All right, I'm going to say a word. You say it back to me and tell me the first sound you hear. Ready?
Yeah.
Fish.
Fish.
Good job. Cousin.
Cousin.
Socks.
Socks.
Nice job. Last one. We're going to get our choppers ready. We're going to chop and then blend. Ready? Frozen.
Frozen.
Nice job. Equal.
Equal.
Nice job. Sharpen.
Sharpen. Sharpen.
Very nice job, my friends. Thank you.
Hello, how are you? My name is Mrs. Souza, one of the kindergarten teachers at Willard School, and I have some few friends with me, and we're going to talk about counting collections today. So before I get into some specifics, Counting Collections is a lending library that was funded by our awesome PTO at Willard School. It is a large collection of items, high-interest items for students, and we get to borrow them, and they're from a range of 1 to 10 all the way to 120. So what it entails, the focus for Counting Collections is counting strategies in number sense. The items are of high interest, so students get to select their items. So they're always something fun and engaging to count. There's a use of tools and how to organize their count, so students decide how to use their space to count, if they're using a certain strategy to count. and how to organize their count, and then eventually we add in tools to get them to organize their count at a higher level. Eventually, we get to the recording stage. We didn't quite get to that because we just started and launched this unit actually last week. So this week, actually, we're moving to the recording stage. And then the recording entails drawing their count in pictures, and they display how to count in different ways. And teachers can leverage conferencing with students to guide them from one stage of counting to the next. So the different skills that we work on are subitizing, cardinality, one-to-one correspondence, comparisons, and number conservation. So today I have a few friends with me, and they're gonna show you their favorite item to count the last week in school and what number they counted to. You wanna do, this is Rain. Ready, honey?
I counted to 25.
What did you count?
Rainbow erasers.
So you wanna hold it up? So her favorite was rainbow erasers, and she did a great job. So in this, actually in the picture, yeah, so Rain lined up her erasers. So she was already lining them up, which is a strategy, which is really great. So initially when they count, we don't say anything, we just kind of see what they do and how they start to organize their count. So she was starting to line them up. And this is Gian. Are you ready, buddy? What's your favorite thing to count in the classroom lately?
Is pizza erasers. I counted to 29.
You counted at 29. How cool is that, right? Pizza erasers. And what do you like to order every day at school? Cheese pizza. That's awesome. And then another friend here, Hannah, her favorite thing to count was unicorn erasers, and she counted to 22. So she also chose to line them up. So like I said, the next phase, they'll go to recording. So actually tomorrow, we're gonna talk about recording our count, right? And that is basically the start of counting collections in kindergarten. I'm gonna turn it over to Miss Haggerty.
All right, I'm gonna have to kneel down for this one. I'm Kelsey Haggerty. I'm one of the new kindergarten teachers, and I'm here to talk about Wonder Wagon. So Wonder Wagon is a time when we quite literally bring in a wagon filled with tools and interesting items to help kindergartners explore their world. And in education, we call this inquiry. So this is a student-based inquiry time. We're teaching kindergartners to explore the world around them, and that's how they really become learners. So in the first month of kindergarten, they're learning how to make observations, how to ask questions, how to record their ideas and share those ideas with others, how to create theories and come to conclusions. And so in the next slide, you'll see how this has played out in our classroom. At first, we went outside and we collected things that were interesting to us, things that were neat, that we might have some questions about. Then we brought them back into the classroom and pulled out our Wonder Wagon and used all of those interesting tools to ask some questions. We agreed on a question that our whole class was interested in, and then we came up with some theories, some possible answers, and finally, we did some research and we came to some conclusions. So I have three friends here today to tell you about their favorite part of Wonder Wagon and to tell you about some of the items that they have. So Cammie, come on up.
My favorite part about the Wonder Wagon is going outside and collecting and bringing them inside and using other tools to explore them. And I have this branch, and inside it is seeds.
Nice job, thank you. Let's take a step back, and Casey, you can go up. What was your favorite part?
My favorite part about the Wonder Wagon is when we go outside and we look for different stuff.
So one of the things that we brought in is this little tiny circle. We weren't sure what it was. So we noticed some things about it. Casey, what did we notice?
We noticed that it's circle. It's hard. It's inside of a leaf.
Nice job. And then Jackson's gonna come up and tell you, those were the things we noticed, the observations. Now, what were we wondering? Could this be?
If it was a berry, or if it was an egg, or if it was a seed.
And what did we decide?
It was a tree seed.
And what's your favorite part of Wonder Wagon?
My favorite part of the Wonder Wagon is the magnifying glass.
All right, that's it.
Do we want to recess or do we just want to let them go? Okay. I am so impressed with the kindergarten presentation this evening, and it's so nice to see all 4 classes and all the families. And it's late for a Tuesday night, but you got all the students did such a fantastic job. You guys were very brave speaking up at the microphone and sharing all that you're learning. And I would have guessed that you're probably in 1st grade, not kindergarten, based on how you were able to talk about what you're learning and stand at the microphone and your confidence. So you guys better thank your parents and your teachers for helping you have the confidence to do that. But you guys are pretty incredible. Does anyone on the board want to ask them any questions or comment on their presentation tonight?
I just want to say to the students, you did a fabulous job, and it was wonderful to see you presenting and sharing the things that you love. And I have to give the kudos to the teachers as well, your passion that you share with your students and your love for learning. You can definitely tell, you know, it's going to them as well, and that's wonderful to see.
Anyone else like to share?
I would just say that I always like hearing from students, but I think kindergartners might be my favorite. So great job.
Anyone else? Ian, do you have anything all the way at the end? I know it's hard to see you.
Well, I have to follow this up, and it's going to be a hard thing to do. I thought it was great. I loved it.
Thanks, Ian. Tracy?
I just want to say that you can tell that you were so proud. All of you just look very proud of what you were doing, and your teachers should be very proud of you guys because you did a great job. It's really great to see little learners. It's so refreshing. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Thank you guys for coming. We love, this is our favorite part of all of our meetings. And the fact that you guys are a hard, as Ian said, a hard act to follow because you are our first presentation of this new school year. And you guys did amazing. And I can already tell that you guys are going to grow up to be some amazing young men and women in our community. So thank you, thank you, thank you for coming.
All right, well, if there, anything else anyone would like to add? So I am not going to have you guys spend all night with us at the meeting because you probably don't think that's too exciting. But what is exciting is there's cookies outside, so we invite you to all go get some cookies, and then you can head home and get ready for school tomorrow. We need to continue our meeting, otherwise we won't be able to get ready for school tomorrow. We have a long night ahead of us, but thank you so much. Let's give them one more big round of applause. Don't forget to take cookies on the way out. Bye, guys. Nice job. You did awesome.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Yes. Well, that was very impressive. I am so happy that we had our kindergartners here tonight. I'm so happy the teachers and Miss Soroy spent all that amount of time preparing our students and the teachers to come have an excellent presentation. Thank you to the families for coming out and supporting the learners tonight. We did put a sign up down at the end of the table for audience of citizens. If anyone would like to sign up, it's down at the end of the table. And we are going to move on to committee reports. So, Ian, I am going to turn it over to you. It's just you tonight, so
Yeah,
you do
it's
have a
just
tough
me.
act to follow.
I really do. So, all right. So Upbeat will be going to Camp Woodstock on Saturday, October 22nd and Sunday, October 23rd. This weekend is intended to develop students' leadership skills and through hands-on activities, which encourages students to also step out of their comfort zone, which I have participated in these kinds of weekends, and it's difficult, but it's a lot of fun. And the Berlin High School Marching Band will be having its first competition on October 15th at Lyman High School, and again on October 22nd at Southington High School. And on Friday, this past Friday, October 7th, the Berlin Redcoats went up against East Bristol for their football game, with the final score being 39-6. The Redcoats scored the first touchdown within 15 seconds, making them undefeated as the season progresses. And the Berlin High School Chorus will be performing at the annual cabaret on October 14th at 7 p.m. in the auditorium. There will be group as well as solo performances, and tickets are $5. The Berlin High School Unified Theater Club began rehearsals on their show, which takes place in January. Students are in charge of writing, producing, and performing their play under the direction of Miss Cormier and Mr. Boyle, as well as student leaders Kelsey Therian and Zach Skinner. Then tomorrow and Wednesday, October 12th, freshmen, sophomores, and juniors will all be completing the PSATs, while seniors will be participating in post-secondary planning workshops throughout the day. And finally, over the past month, many college and university representatives have visited BHS in order to show the opportunities available to students after high school, and some notable colleges are Sacred Heart, University of New Hampshire, and University of Notre Dame. And that's all.
Thank you, Ian. It's a good report. Committee reports. So I know that our committee has a meeting coming up, so we have nothing to report, right? Tim?
Yes, we had a policy ad hoc committee meeting on the 5th last week. There are a number of policies that are receiving a first reading later on in tonight's meeting. A lot of updates to language, standardizations against legislation, things of that nature. Nothing really exciting or earth-shattering on those. But like I said, those will be a first reading. We'll talk about those later after our motion on the second reading of stuff. We also had a Finance and Operations Committee meeting on the 6th. We will be talking about this in a little bit more detail later with Mr. Cugno. We had a review of capital expenditures as the town is starting to go through their capital budgeting and working into looking at next year and years beyond. So we're getting involved in that and communications with them on those topics. And then we also talked a little bit about graduation, which will be something that we talk about later on tonight as well.
Thank you, Tim. Carrie, did you guys meet? Or? We did not. I have nothing to report. Okay. I know that there's nothing to report for the CREC report, and so moving on to correspondence to the board.
Yes, I have two correspondence to the board. Dear Berlin Board of Education family, thank you for thinking of me during this difficult time and for sending the beautiful plant. Your sincere messages of sympathy and support were greatly appreciated. Fondly, Gary, Tracy, and Amelia Ardonskowitz. This is our security officer at Griswold. Second, correspondence to the board. Dear Berlin Board of Education staff, for your kindness and expression of sympathy, my sincere thanks and thoughtfulness. The peacefully you sent after my father's passing has brought beauty and light to my home during an extremely difficult time. Your support will forever be remembered. Sincerely, Jen Burrell. Jen is a psychologist at Griswold.
Thank you. I have two things to report, but I know Tracy has something to report as well. So.
Well, it's just exciting news. I know that when Ian reports, he talks about all, the varsity games and stuff like that, but just to let the community know that the freshman football team, all of our football teams and all of our teams have been doing great. We actually are making history. We have our first female athlete playing football, and she scored her first touchdown as well last Thursday. So just wanted to let the community know that Berlin is making history.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very exciting. Thank you for sharing that. And I just have two other things to report, just as board chair. On Monday, September 26th, I had the opportunity to visit all 5 schools in town, and I was welcomed by the students, faculty, staff, and administration, so thank you. It's really important that I have the opportunity to go out and see all the schools, especially as we go through budget, or I have the ability to speak to what's going on in our schools. And, you know, I think it's important to show, you know, our students and faculty and staff that, you know, as a board, we are there to support them. But it was a fantastic day, and I saw so much learning and teaching and wonderful things. I saw how our money is being spent. That's really important because we hear about a lot of things happening. We don't always get to see them. So I had that day off from school, so I made sure that I spent the day. So thank you for hosting me, all of those who freely gave up their time. The other thing I am excited to share out with the board is that over the summer, I submitted a proposal for NSBA, that's the National School Board Association, for their national conference, and I put Carrie and Brian as co-presenters with me, and our presentation for the national conference this coming April was accepted. So we will be presenting at the national level on the relationship between power, decision-making, and oppression. And that's a lot of what I've been studying for my doctorate. So it's a big deal that Berlin gets to go take the national stage. So I was excited to share that out. I know that Brian and Carrie and I have been excited, so let's share that with all of you. So that is all I have to share. Moving on to audience of citizens. I think Mark Holmes is first on the list. Is that correct? Yeah, if you could.
Mark Holmes, 146 Wildermere Road. I'm here tonight, Board of Ed members, to ask for your yes vote on a proposal you have in front of you tonight to rename our basketball floor Coach V Court. Mike Veneziano, Coach V, passed away last year of a rare type of cancer. In his 14 plus years here, Coach V touched the lives of hundreds of kids. Kids whose moms were in the hospital dying of cancer, and he's over there making sure the family has food every night. The most stark, and by the way, I had a dozen kids lined up to speak tonight, but then I saw your agenda, so I asked them to stand down. In his last days on this earth, he showed the kids how to live life, how to be selfless. He could barely walk anymore, and not only was he out there coaching, he was trying to get a kid into college. Calling me about 2 weeks before his death, asking about the football players on the basketball team, making sure they were okay. He literally, in those couple of weeks, showed the kids more about how to live life and be selfless and care for others. Again, hundreds of kids over the years. He did so much, and he didn't want it to be known. He wanted to stay stealth. He didn't want to be recognized. He just did for others. You have letters in the original proposal that I put forward. You could read them if you haven't already. But I ask you to honor Mike's legacy of almost 15 years by naming our court Coach V Court. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Are you going to speak too? I know, it's a tough act to follow, sorry.
As long as you're not here to criticize the kindergartners.
No, I had those. They look good from afar, you know. Jesse Edie, 72 Worthington Point Road in Berlin. That was really nice. You did a really good job. So it's nice to hear those things. And I wanted to just thank y'all for coming out here. Trying to make these meetings just to sit here and listen to you is really hard. So I don't know how you guys continuously do this. I know lots of you have children and you have other things too. So I wanted to appreciate it because it was really nice to sit here and see that today. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Jesse. All right. Moving on to the next part of agenda, personnel. We have a few different retirements this evening. So the first retirement is Barbara Ventura, the assistant principal at Berlin High. And I'm going to turn this over to Superintendent Benigni to say a few words about Barbara. She's going to be missed, so.
Thank you. Barbara Ventura has, this was her 20th year in the Berlin Public Schools. Actually hired Barbara as an assistant principal years ago at McGee, where she taught social studies. Barbara's held positions of assistant principal at McGee. She's been the intern principal of McGee, the intern principal of Berlin High School, assistant principal of Berlin High School. She has dedicated herself to the district and what the district needs for 20 years. We'll miss Barbara greatly. So thank you, Barbara, for those 20 years.
So before we open it up to discussion, do we have a motion for consideration?
I'll move that the board accept the retirement of Barbara Ventura, assistant principal at Berlin High School, effective June 30th, 2023, and also to thank her for the 20 years of service she has provided to the youth of Berlin and wish her good health and happiness in her retirement years.
Motion by Carrie. Do we have a second? Second by Gina. Any discussion?
I will just say that in my time on the Board of Ed, I have borne witness to the work that Barbara has done, and she has, as Brian just said, she has fully devoted herself to every position that she has occupied in my time here. So I wish her very well, and her retirement is well deserved.
I would like to echo that. My 7 years on the board, I, have really enjoyed having conversations with Barbara, attending certain, dinners before meetings, after meetings, so on and so forth. And I know that she has given a lot to our community, and I'm grateful for that. So, echoing what has already been said, but wishing Barb well in retirement. Right, let's move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 7-0. Okay, the next one is Mark Weikander, teacher of technology education, submitted his letter of intent to retire at the end of the 2022-2023 school year, so I'll turn that over to the superintendent.
Even though I did not hire Mark, Mark's been in district over 35 years. Mark has been a tech ed teacher here at the high school. And also, I think on the other things that Mark has really involved himself with the students is being running the yearbook for a number of years. And also in the tech program, he has taught a wide array of courses over his tenure in Berlin Public Schools. So I'd like to thank Mark for his 35 years here in Berlin Public Schools.
All right, do we have a motion for consideration?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, 25 years, I apologize. I gave him an extra 10 here in Berlin.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move that the board accept the retirement of Mark Weikander, teacher of technology education at Berlin High School, effective June 30th, 2023. Also to thank him for the 25 years of service he has provided to the youth of Berlin and wish him good health and happiness in his retirement years.
Second.
So the motion by Tim, the second by Carrie. Any discussion? Just want to wish him well. It's very exciting to move on to this part of your life and enjoy the retirement you earned. All right. To a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 7-0. All right. The next one was shocking to me. So we are going to entertain a motion this evening for Pamela Dennis, teacher of family consumer science. She's submitted her letter of intent to retire at the 2022-2023 school year. I'll turn this over to you.
So this being my 30th year in Berlin, Pam is retiring after 48 years in the Berlin Public Schools. So Pam has been someone, and I gotta say this, oftentimes people retire, not to say that people lose energy, but Pam has as much energy as when I first met her 30 years ago. She's done a number of things for the school, including first robotics. She brought the pastry class to where every student in the high school wants to take the pastry class that she started Pam has done a lot for the school, and continues to. We all knew that eventually the day would come, as Julia said, but Pam actually met with me personally to share her retirement, and said, you know, if you still need anything, I could still help you out here or there. And I think she said she was up at 4 in the morning baking something for someone else that day. But that's the energy that Pam brings. So Berlin Public Schools has been fortunate to have Pam Dennis as a teacher here at the high school for 48 years. So congratulations, Pam.
Do we have a motion for consideration?
I move that the board accept the retirement of Pamela Dennis, teacher of Family and Consumer Science at Berlin High School, effective June 30th, 2023. Also to thank her for the 48 years of service she has provided to the youth of Berlin and wish her good health and happiness in her retirement years.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Melissa. Any discussion?
She was like 10, right, when she started?
Right out of college. She started right out of
No,
college.
it's 10. It's more fun.
Yes.
And I will also echo that Pam's energy, I'm envious of it. She is incredibly energetic, and I'm sure her presence will be missed greatly.
Yeah, I can say as long as I've been teaching, she's someone who I've looked to understand students better, to understand, you know, what different teaching and learning practices. From having her in my life, I've become a better teacher. I think she has more energy than me, and I have a lot of energy, but she's still doing it, and she's still going, so I'm excited for her to retire, and I'm excited for her help. But, you know, it's definitely bittersweet and surprising, so.
As someone who is taking her baking class right now, she's a really good teacher. And she
Aw.
will be missed, so.
She's going to retract her retirement after that statement from a student.
I know. and
Revoke
that-
it, I mean.
I'm sure she's tired by now.
That's why I said I was surprised to see this one here. I was like, wow, okay. But I do benefit from her baking at 4 in the morning and then bringing treats over, so it is great. All right, any other statements
So
before
how
we?
much is it worth to you?
How much is it worth to me?
We got to vote yes on this.
I know, I told her before the meeting I was gonna vote no. But I'll vote in favor. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 7-0. All right, and we have one more retirement that we added. So I'm gonna turn that over to the superintendent.
Yes, we have received a letter from Rick Hanberry, a science teacher here at Berlin High School for 37-plus years. Rick is a physics teacher predominantly, but Rick was also a track coach here, and I believe he coached others in his tenure. But Rick will be drastically missed. Rick is another person who brings a ton of energy to the job every day, and is, you know, goes way beyond for the students in the classroom, and also his involvement with coaching. So Rick will definitely be missed in the Berlin Public Schools.
Do we have a motion for consideration?
I will move that the board accept the retirement of Richard Hanberry, teacher of science at Berlin High School, effective June 30th, 2023. Also to thank him for the 38 years of service he has provided to the youth of Berlin, and wish him good health and happiness in his retirement years.
Do we have a second? Motion by Tim, second by Carrie. Any discussion? Go ahead.
I remember taking physics with Mr. Hanberry back when I was in high school here 30 years ago now. And, you know, it was the kind of class that you were excited to go into because something might blow up that day. He made that class fun for that reason. So it's definitely a unique kind of teacher that we're losing.
Well, we wish Mr. Hanberry well in his retirement, and it's really, I love hearing stories like that when people can think back to their high school teachers and have those stories, and they're still here. So we wish you well and enjoy your retirement. We can move on to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, 7-0.
By my math, that's 131 years of teaching.
131
That is walking
years.
out the door.
Wow. Big year for retirement.
Thank you.
Best of luck to you and all the administrators. I'm kidding. Anyway, moving on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion for consideration?
I move that the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do we have a second? So the motion by Melissa, the second by Carrie. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Yep.
I would just like to call attention to the overnight field trip for Utah and call out Mr. Arnold particularly. I'm assuming it's his origin story of this one. I mean, 11 years on the board, these are the kinds of things that got me coming here time and again. The creativity and the ingenuity to see this field trip on the consent agenda. No disrespect to Camp Woodstock and the other things that are here, but we've been doing those, and I know those are great. I am thrilled to see that we're going to be sending a group of students out to look at things like our national parks, because I've looked at this and say to myself, geez, I should have brought my kids there, or maybe we'll get to go there when they're out of college before they have a family and things cool down, but that's probably never going to happen because something else is going to come up. So I'm excited to see this on the agenda and on the field trip roster for this year, and I hope it's a great success and continues into future years and maybe goes to other parts of the country to see other parts, to where we'll have kids like the consumer sciences class jockeying for the year that they get to go to see Mount Rushmore versus the Southwestern Canyons or something else. I think this is fantastic.
Thank you. Anything else on the consent agenda that needs to be discussed? All right, moving to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 7-0. Moving on to new business. Am I turning it over to you for the district enrollment report?
So with the district enroll report, I'm happy to report that we have 2,660 students. It's our October 1st count, which is a 15 student increase as compared to the previous year. So it's not a whole percentage, but it's a 0.5%, but it's still a plus for students. And according to our projections of enrollment, we're supposed to level off in the next years. That's not supposed to decrease anymore. Something to bring attention to with the enrollment, though, just our class sizes. The one school that really jumps out for class size is Griswold, and there's really no way with the kindergarten to know. We have kindergarten classes of 19, 18, 19, 19, and 18 at Griswold, which Hubbard is 15 and 15, Willard is 13, 16, 16, and 13. So the Griswold class K numbers are high, which is 5 sections, which could cause some issues and when we go to look to next year, how we would roll them forward, which that's not our typical class size at the K level. But if there's any questions on the enrollment?
No questions? Okay, moving on to the next item. Turn it over to Mr. Cugno. Give us a brief update.
Good evening, everybody. You have in front of, the board members have in front of you a revised report from the F&O committee regarding recommendations for the fiscal year 2024 town capital plan. Just a little bit of background on this. The process to get to this point starts with the town manager asking for a list from the Board of Ed. What happens is we ask our department heads, our building administrators to prepare a list of the items they need for their facility, including site work, building work, anything else that they would like to have considered on our entire equipment budget and in the capital plan for the next year. I want to thank them very much for putting some great items together, putting a good list together. It's a very sizable list. However, all you have in front of you tonight is what the F&O committee is recommending to go on the capital plan for the town. That's a different funding source. Our budget, as you know, is the operating budget. The capital plan is something that the town puts together for major projects. So what you have in front of you tonight is what the recommendation is from the F&O committee to be given to the town for the town plan, town capital plan. Most of the things are large projects. As a matter of fact, the rules to go with the capital plan set by the town is something $25,000 or above. We do this every year. We put a number of things in the capital plan. What happens with this list, if you approve it tonight, it goes to the Capital Management Committee at the town level. A number of department heads, the town manager, and a number of other people get involved in the review, and then they recommend to the, not only town council, but to the finance board, what is going to be put on capital. So it doesn't necessarily mean all these will be funded. This is our request. What happens to things that don't get funded on the capital plan still are considered by the Board of Ed under operating and are still considered by the town under their surplus documents. So it doesn't mean that they die on the vine here. It just means this is the beginning of our request. You have requests from Berlin High, from Willard, from McGee, from Hubbard, from Griswold, also from the central office, and also from the security department. The total at this point recommended is $2,297,150. If you want me to go through any items on this list, I could do that. They're going to have a lot of discussion, by the way, as they get submitted next week to the finance department at the town, and then from that point forward to the capital management committee, and a number of other discussions to get down to what will actually be put on the capital plan. I would be more than willing to go through these items if you'd like and explain why they're on there. If you'd like to hear that, just let me know. Other than that, I will just pause for a moment.
Jeff, I just think it's important for you to know about technology and furniture and what the direction was. I think it's important for the board to know what the town has advised.
A couple of years ago, what decision was kind of informally made at the town level was, even though, as I said, they take very large projects and put it on the capital plan because we obviously can't afford to fund them in our operating budget. Our equipment line item is usually rather small. So we like to get them on capital. They made a decision a number of years ago, a few years ago actually, that it had to be $25,000 or over, and also that they would not accept on a capital plan IT investments and also furniture. That puts us in a tough spot because a lot of our requests from the building administrators and departments are for things like furniture and IT and smaller projects. So it's left with us making a decision on not putting them on the capital plan and then also having to fit them in the operating budget, which you can imagine the way the mathematics work, and I know the board members know this, and certainly the F&O committee knows this, it puts us in a tough situation. You will see on this list that the F&O committee agreed to put a few things on the list for security department, which are a lot of IT things, and also some furniture items. I have been instructed to go to the Capital Management Committee and argue for these because of the size of the investment that is needed to go forward. Very difficult for us to think that something that is needed, some of these they have to be really items that have to be needed in order to get in a capital plan, because if not, there's so many issues that have to go there, they get crossed out. So you can be assured these are things we really want. And a couple of them are very big. Somebody could say that they'd fall under IT. There's ones here that have furniture that are part of a bigger project. We're going to go and request those, which means we're going to argue the point of whether these things should be considered on a capital plan or not. If in fact they don't go on a capital plan like everything else, they'd still fall back into requests to the operating budget. Actually, all the things that are not on this list that were requested by the building administrators and by department heads will also be, you will see these on the operating budget as requests.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Before we ask questions, before we open it up to discussion, do we have a motion for consideration?
I'll move that the board approve the request for capital funding as presented for submission to the town of Berlin.
We have a motion by Tim. Do we have a second? Second by Carrie. I heard it first. Now, do we have any questions or comments for Jeff? All right. All those, oh, yeah, go ahead, please.
What was the reason for the revision?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I noticed there was no mention.
The revision was simply when the F&O committee was discussing a much larger list than this to get it down to the recommendations. There were some ideas to reclassify some of these from a particular building into the security department or into IT. And what happened when it was put together, where there was a double counting of it. Something was in there twice.
I'm sorry you said that.
No, something was in there twice, so we took it out, that's all. I want to just thank the Finance Committee's members and obviously the board tonight for going over this. This is a very, very important part of our funding going forward for this is for 2024. It's difficult to go through all these items, put the time in it, and I really appreciate the committee spending the time to do that.
All right, moving to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your report. All right, moving on to policy review and revision. So the ad hoc met September 12th to review the recommendations. The first reading of the new policies and revisions took place at the board meeting on September 12th. The second reading and adoption will take place this evening. Do either you or Tim have anything you'd like to share about this? I know we went through this at last meeting, but if there's any more.
I guess the only question would be, as we've done in the past, have there been any questions between the first reading and tonight on these policies?
Now's the time. Okay. Then do we have a motion for consideration?
I will move that the board adopt the new and revised policies and bylaws, items A through M, listed above, and delete policy 6172.6, item N, listed above. And is it Nancy?
Do we have a second? Second by Matt. Any discussion? All right, move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 7-0. And then the first reading of the policies, there's a number of them. I'm not going to list them out, but our law firm has recommended new policy revisions to policies and/or bylaws based on different regulatory changes, citation updates, and best practices. The ad hoc committee for policy review and revision met on October 5th to review the proposed new policy and recommendation revisions. Since this is the first reading, no action is required. At our next meeting, November 28th, that's when the second reading and adoption will take place. Any questions, or Tim or Brian, is there anything you would like to share out regarding the first reading?
There really was not much discussion on the policies. Again, these policies are to meet the new legislation that's been provided, as well as to update things that haven't been updated in a number of times. So it's the first reading, so we'll have an opportunity to look at them again.
Yeah, I think that one of the big takeaways that we had that I know Brian and his office are working on with council are 4118.5, 5131.83, and 5131.81 are all related to technology. And the big changes in those were around the types of devices that are defined as technology. But it's a kind of an including but not limited to clause, but I think it makes sense to probably have those be fairly consistent across all three of those policies, so that there is no chance for somebody to claim that they were following one policy that didn't have a device, but instead they should have been following the other policy that did have the device. Other than that, it's, like you said, legislative changes, but I think we want to kind of protect ourselves as much as we can on that type of stuff when it comes to technology, since that is going to be a bigger and bigger concern.
Any comments, questions? All right, well, our next meeting we will have further discussion. Moving on to the choice presentation report. I'm going to turn this over to the superintendent.
So we actually have a video for you this evening, but I'd like to just talk about our choice numbers for a moment for the current year. Unfortunately, this year we've seen a number of students that have been in the choice program for a number of years exit the choice program. Typically, a student exits when they no longer reside in Hartford. We don't lose a lot of students that go back to the Hartford Public Schools, fortunately. One of the big issues this past year, this current year, is the transportation. The transportation this year has not been, it's never been perfect. It's never been, I would not even say the word good, but it's been acceptable. This year it's been less than acceptable on our end, but even more so on the parents that choose to send their students to Berlin. It's an issue across the state. Hiring and retaining bus drivers and having adequate drivers for the buses has also impacted the choice program, where students haven't been able to get to school on time or haven't been able to get to school at all, and many of the parents were frustrated with that and removed them from choice. And new students that were entering, that was one of the major concerns. So our enrollment has dropped to 98 students. Typically we're over 120. We're at 98, which means that we are close to 3.5% of the total population. Typically, we are 4.2, 4.3, all the way up to 4.5. Obviously, trying to maintain that 4% of the population, and that 4% is maintained because we actually budget that our reimbursement will be at $8,000 per student. But unfortunately, this current year will be being reimbursed at $6,000 per student. So it's dropped, and our model of accepting students in grades K and 1 typically, this year we still have open seats. 6 additional seats in K were offered, and we don't have students that are interested at choice to enter those seats. We offered 6 additional seats at grade 2 even this year, and students have not opted to enter the Berlin Public Schools. We had 1 additional seat at grade 4 for a sibling. So the likelihood that we will hit that 4% is not high. And it's not that we didn't offer the seats or have the room for the seats. It's that there's just not a pool of students wanting to enter into the choice program. And speaking to the parents, and you'll hear some of the parents and students, what they feel about the Berlin Public Schools once they're here is very strong. But the transportation is a huge issue when you're thinking about putting your child on a bus for 45 minutes to an hour each way, and then to have the transportation be inconsistent or non-existent at all. Your child's education is then impacted greatly. We've had discussions with the director. We've asked for our own funding to use our bus company. Right now, it's really falling on deaf ears. So it's important that you know that. We've had a student who's been with us since K. It's a student who has a significant disability. The student wants to participate as he has in the past in all kinds of after-school activities, and we're getting pushback saying they won't provide the transportation, they don't feel it's their responsibility. So our message here in Berlin has always been for choice that if there are students, which choice students become Berlin students, they just reside in Hartford is the way we said this, they are able to participate in all activities that they choose to because they're Berlin students. And to have a student who's been here since K not to be able to participate is something that's very disheartening to all of us, especially a student with significant needs and the enjoyment the student gets from being part of the various activities. So we're fighting an uphill battle with choice, and it's not just unique to Berlin, it's across the state. So that's the choice update. And now on a positive note, we did put together a video, thanks to Mr. Smith and his team in the back, and our choice liaisons, and I'd like to share it with you. It just gives you a little perspective from parent, some students, and some teachers in the district about the choice program and how they feel about the Berlin Public Schools. So Mr. Smith, if you could.
So I believe that all students who attend Berlin Public Schools, Berlin High School in particular, benefit from all of the very enriching experiences, whether academic or extracurricularly. Students who attend here from the Open Choice program, they bring a very diverse perspective to our community, and I believe they're able then to take home diverse experiences and perspectives to their communities, benefiting all who participate.
Hi, I'm Nick Rivera. I'm a sophomore at Berlin High School, and I've been in Berlin Public Schools since 7th grade. The community here is a really good community. So when I first came here in 7th grade, obviously I didn't have no friends, I was new, but kids were just really open. A couple kids came up and sat with me, and they were very chill about it, invited me into their friend group. And 7th and 8th grade didn't really have a school year because of COVID, but when I came to freshman year in Berlin, I joined the football team, and it's like a family there. Everyone's very heartwarming. They're all welcome. They treat you like your brothers, and they take care of you. And I also wrestle. That's a good community. Everyone's very open with you. They're very inviting. You do a lot of team activities, and just the overall feeling at the school is great. Everyone's welcoming. No one judges you or mistreats you because of who you are or where you come from or anything. Everyone's welcoming, and they invite you into everything.
Hi, my name is Jadiel, and I've been going to Berlin School since I was in kindergarten. The reason why I like Berlin School is because there's more people I could be friends with, and the teachers are fun and kind.
Hi, my name is Isha, and I like Griswold School because there's a lot of things you could do and a lot of friends you can make. And my favorite subject is art because there's a bunch of stuff you could do, and my favorite thing in art is the Square One art project. I like our art show. It's when your parents you make art and your parents get to see them.
My name is Jaxia Morales. I really like our Bridge School. I'm in 3rd grade. I made lots of new friends. I've made friends with the teachers too, and our teachers are very friendly. I really like Officer Fig. He's an incredible police officer. I am really grateful that I'm here.
Hello, my name is Diamond. I am a 5th grader at Hubbard Elementary. I love the teachers here. They're so nice, and it's a nice place to be. And I feel safe and cared about here. It feels like my second home.
Although our students that participate in the Choice program do not live in Berlin, they are an integral part of our Willard learning community. Families that have chosen this educational opportunity are supportive and encouraging in helping their children to identify their individual interests and goals. Here at Willard, we appreciate the opportunity to welcome all of our students through our doors each day.
Hi, my name is Mia. I am in 2nd grade. The things I like about coming school in Berlin are lots of opportunities to make new friends. Teachers give us a lot of work to help us learn. The cafeteria food is good with lots of choices, and staff members are kind.
I'm Audie. I'm in 4th grade. The things I like coming to Berlin School are band, the teachers are nice, art class is really fun.
I'm Janaya, and I'm in 5th grade. The things I like about coming to school in Berlin are friends, less drama, time outside, and gym class.
Students who are enrolled in the Choice program are important members of our Griswold family. They enrich our school with their unique gifts and talents. They are inquisitive readers, writers, and thinkers. They exercise their creativity as artists, musicians, and technology experts, and make things better as leaders in our school community. They are kind friends who enjoy all the fun that comes with being an elementary school student. Our Choice students are loved and welcomed here at Griswold School.
Hi, my name is Sadri. I love Griswold School because it's really talented and the teachers are really nice, and I like it a lot because it's like a big school and there's lots of kind people, and especially teachers. And I love it so much because I have lots of friends and nobody is mean to me and stuff.
My name is Christopher, and what I like about Griswold School is the therapy dog and music.
My involvement in the Open Choice program is I have the opportunity to stay after school
with some of these students. It gives them a time to decompress from the school day. They get to stay with their close-knit friends. They have snack together. We do a little bit of a homework club.
Hi, my name is Justin. I'm in 8th grade. I've been going to Berlin since 4th grade. The thing I like in Berlin is there's more exploratories than Hartford. The things I'm looking forward to in Berlin High is the different classes that they have and the different opportunities.
My name is Nastasia Escobar, and I'm in 6th grade. I have been in the Berlin schools since 5 years. The one thing I like about McGee Middle School is they have a lot of clubs, like yearbooks, newspaper, Minecraft, and Lego clubs.
I like going to Berlin schools because they have band.
Hi, my name is Natalie Moses. My kids, I have 2 kids, and they go to Griswold Elementary School, and they're on the choice program, and the program is wonderful. My kids, they did not leave them out on any things that goes on in the school because, for example, on that summer camp, there are afternoon adventures. The teachers, work with them, and I think it's wonderful. The program, the art and the music, my kids love those. My son especially, and my daughter is now new to it because she's in kindergarten, and she just loves, the art too. And the teachers, as I again mentioned, they're wonderful, and the program is fantastic, the choice program, and I'm honored to be a part of it, and my kids.
My name is Maya, and my brother's in the same school with me. I like my friends, and I like the playtime outside with me.
Hi, my name's Gordon. I like Griswold School because of the teachers. The teachers at our school are very fun. Most of them, like my favorite 4th grade teacher and 5th grade teacher, Miss Bodat, and also Miss Pierre, they were very fun. And some of the things of why you should go to our school is our art and specials, because in art you get to make pretty, like anything that comes to your mind. And then also in band, and it's fun. Miss Wilson teaches us very much different things. And you also attend in concerts. Our teachers are put a lot on work into what they do for us. So I like to appreciate them a lot. Everyone in the school treats each other the way that they want to be treated. And yeah.
All right. Nick, thank you to you and your team for putting that together. That was very well done. I really enjoyed watching that. I think it's important for us to always hear about the choice program and the benefits of it and what the students appreciate. Anyone else have anything they'd like to share?
I think it's always very heartwarming to hear from students, but it's also nice to hear from family members and staff about their experiences with a program. So, and I have to say that was a beautifully assembled presentation. So, well done to all.
Right. Moving on to the next item, the subcommittee met on September 26th. It was an ad hoc committee so I'll just, back in March, Mark Holmes, who spoke earlier at our meeting this evening, he submitted a letter to request the Board of Education to consider naming the Berlin High School basketball court in honor of Coach Mike Veneziano. Coach V. And like I started to say, September 26th, the subcommittee met. We met for quite some time, had really thoughtful discussion, and we referenced the policy. The subcommittee's recommendation is to move forward with naming the court after Coach V. On another note, which will be brought up at later times, the committee did have some recommendations for ways to improve the policy later on. I do want to mention that this evening. I'm not going to get into the specifics. That can be done in ad hoc and then through first and second readings if we so choose, but I just want to make sure those committee members who are here tonight or watching, they know that I am conveying that there have been a few suggestions, so we can always improve. But after going through the language of the policy and what has been presented to the board and the subcommittee unanimously recommended that we move forward with this, with naming the court. Do you have anything you would like to share?
I just think the discussion, I know that we were both on the committee, the discussion at the subcommittee lasted for a while.
Over an hour.
And there was mixed opinions at first, and I think that people came to a understanding of, based on the policy and where things are at this time, that the criteria to think of naming the court after Mike Veneziano, who I actually knew, personally, that it does meet that criteria at this present time. So I think that was a discussion point that we had at the committee in talking about the policy that was drafted just a few years ago, and then where we are today with the opportunity to honor Mike in this way.
And like Brian had shared, initially, the conversation was mixed. And from that is where we came up with recommendations to improve the policy at a later date, not right now, but based on the policy at hand and what was presented, that's where the committee unanimously decided to move this forward to the board. We will need a motion for consideration, and then we can open it up for discussion. So I know we don't have a motion drafted on this agenda, but it has to be voted on by the board. So does anyone want to take a stab at making a motion? Tim is going to. He's going to give us one last hurrah over here, Ed.
We still got executive session to go into. I'm sure I'm getting looked to for that. Let's see. Would have been nice to have a motion. I move to accept the recommendation of the subcommittee to name the court in the Gibney Gymnasium in honor of Coach Mike Veneziano.
Second. So we have a motion by Tim, a second by Tracy. Now we can open it up for discussion. So I'll entertain any discussion, answer any questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
Based on my interpretation of the policy, it says that the name should be submitted after separation from compensated service for a minimum of 1 year. Are we not
So that actually
premature in this action?
So I'm glad you actually brought that up, because that is something we discussed in our ad hoc committee meeting, and it did come up. And I think this is a very important point to discuss. So I'm going to have Brian speak to it, as that's like more of the personnel-related issue.
Mike Veneziano was never the coach this past year. He never was on the payroll. It was Stan Glowiak. So Mike his service has been terminated prior to this past season. So, if you want to look back, the last time Mike coached was not the 20, it would be the 20, would be last year. So not the 21, 22, it would be the 2021. He did not coach last year. He actually passed away before the first game. It was not the active coach, it was Stan Glowiak. So his service has actually been terminated more than a year at this time.
Any other questions or comments? Concerns?
But Matt, that was a discussion point at length at the meeting.
Ian?
So I just want to say that I'm not really a sports person, and I'm at the football game. I barely know what's going on half the time, but I really think that this naming will really help unite not just Berlin High School, but rather the entire town with the values that we all hold. I think it's a very nice thing to do based off of what I have been given in this extensive packet. So.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
I think, just to share with the board, some of the discussion was the length of time that Mike coached and the impact he had on the community. Is it a measurement based on, that he had this unfortunate death? But I think the one thing that came through was that regardless of who you spoke to, Mike was a good person with a good heart who cared about Berlin and did right by students to the best of his ability right till the end. And I think that's the message that I think people left with. And then as far as whether the length of time, we should change the policy or not, maybe a discussion at another point. And that's where we got into the initial conversation of, at this time, is Mike Veneziano eligible based on our current policy? And the thought was yes. And then the other thought was that Mike did have an impact on the community. It may have not been as long as others, may not have been to the magnitude of others, but Mike definitely was a person of good standing who others respected. And you never heard people say a negative comment about Mike. He was a good person that people respected. So that, I think, was the conversation, that kind of concluded the meeting.
Any other discussion? All right, moving to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, hearing none, 7-0. Moving on to the graduation site, I'm going to turn this over to the superintendent to discuss this.
Well, we have one administrator sitting there in the audience here at the end, Principal Eustace, so if we have any questions, we can ask her to come forward here for this. We discussed this at the F&O meeting. We've had 2 very successful years at Sage Park. The weather has been very cooperative. But if you know Principal Eustace, she always has a backup plan. And so we did have a backup plan that would have been in place where we would go into the gymnasium. We are fortunate to have a very nice gymnasium. If we had to have graduation in there, it would not be Welty Hall, but it's not as though you're going into a dark, a dark gymnasium. That's not. So the thought was that we would continue, we'd like to continue at Sage Park after great discussion. Eileen was nice enough to look at a breakdown of cost. There is probably a $5,000 to $6,000 difference to have it at Sage at this current time. We don't know if some of the prices were inflated a little because there was great competition for chairs and tents and everything else because it was happening across the state. The other piece is Welty Hall has not been as cooperative in the past of getting back to us and locking in the date and so on. But if you look at the notes that Eileen had here, the thought was, and we talked to the F&O committee, that we would entertain having it at Sage Park if the board was willing to do that. You're looking at a cost differential, like I said, about $6,000 between the two, just because we need a sound system. We have to hire the police department, a visiting nurse, stage and seating, and chairs, and then the town charges. So with the town fees, the police are roughly $1,500, and to re-fluff the field, re-groom the field, that's about $3,000 that the town requires us to do because we've had the chairs on it. So that extra $6,000 really in the nursing. So it's almost, for the re-grooming of the turf and the PD is what the extra money is compared to Welty. So the thought would be to have it at Sage. If there was an issue, we'd go to the gymnasium. We would do it in similar fashion, so we wouldn't roll it over, a week or a day. We try to keep it at the same time and go with a rain date like we had last year, so that if people have relatives or family, then we were able to accommodate without pushing things back at the last minute because of rain.
there's no motion on our agenda, can we make the motion at our next meeting? Absolutely. Okay, so we're gonna just open it up for discussion. Is there a timeline that has to be fulfilled with Welty? So my only reluctance for those who are on the board, the last time we made a decision, I know it was probably 7 years ago. It was pre-COVID. It was within my first 2 years on the board. We made a decision having the information presented to us, thinking we were making the most well-informed decision, and we quickly learned that we just needed some time. I am willing to, call a special virtual meeting if we need to, but I think that we need to as much as I want to be supportive, because I've been at the past 2 graduations and I know how well they were, and I want to definitely move forward. I just don't want to make the same mistake twice sitting on the board. After the last time, looking at all the families in our board meeting room who were angry, saying, I'm not going to do that again. So I have been very intentional ever since that happened 6 or 7 years ago, not to make the same mistake by quickly voting on something. That's my personal opinion. I do not want to sway anyone else's, but I will open it up to discussion with the board, and we can settle on this together as a board. Carrie?
So I have a shared memory of that happening, and I was just going to ask the question as to whether or not families and students had been sort of polled as to whether this is their wish. I fully expect that people have a different perspective on this based on recent experiences with the graduation and post-COVID, but I also remember that.
So does the board want us to poll the parents to see before the board makes a decision?
I don't know if and I'm going to leave this to the board. I don't know if it necessarily needs to be polled, but I think it needs to be public facing, and now the board is talking about it, and then it's going to be a month before the board votes on it. So that gives the community opportunity to go back, talk, discuss, and then come bring their concerns to the board before we vote on it. And that's why I'm saying if we need to form a special meeting to lock in with vendors and get something on the agenda, I'm willing to do something like that as long as we'll have a quorum. But I really just want to make sure that we're moving forward with this in a public-facing manner, so we're not later on saying, I wish we handled it differently.
If we wait till next meeting, then the public would have an opportunity, our citizens, to come and speak before the vote at next meeting. The question is, are we able to do that with the vendors? We're still 6 months out. The increase may be different then, correct? Well, maybe less. Thank you.
So I'm going to turn it over to the board. I want to hear from you guys. I don't want to solely be making this decision.
I have a question. I was at the graduation in June, and I thought it was really nice. I've been to other graduations at Welty Hall also, and I thought those were very nice as well. But if you're graduating from Berlin High, it's nice to be in the town that you're graduating from. It does have a more, it just seems so near and dear when you're in the town that you're graduating from. The expense, from what I see, is we're talking $6,000 difference. I don't know if that's really going to get people riled up for $6,000. I think it's worth it for the kids. I mean, the outside atmosphere was really nice. It was done really well. It wasn't like sort of a fly-by-night, just throw it together. I thought it was really done nicely, and I was really impressed with it. And I think going forward with doing it outside would be really nice if that's what people could agree on to argue over it. I don't know what the argument would be other than the money or the environment not being formal enough, having that sort of stage to walk on. And I understand some parents really, like that whole, and the kids too, they want to feel, important, and that's a big day for them. But I think we replicated that outside really well. I thought it was really done nicely, so I say Sage Park.
Having had a son,
Thank you, Gina.
having had a son graduate and had the hall experience and having two that are going to be graduating, I absolutely would rather have it here. I personally felt the hall was cramped, tight. It was more formal. It wasn't like you were cramped inside and you all went outside to a smaller, like, outside area and trying to cram pictures with all these people, and it was just really tight. And then everybody gets in their cars and leaves. And it just wasn't personal. I actually had even said the first graduation we did with COVID, we were all outside in the parking lot. I thought that was better than the hall, just because it was so open and so natural for the kids. So, I mean, I can see how but speaking of having had that, and what I would choose for my child, I would choose to have it here at their home, personally. Like, I mean, I know Sage, but like here in Berlin.
I think we all felt that way, sitting on the board at that point in time. We were all like, well, of course it's gonna happen in Berlin. This is our community. This is where you graduate. It's beautiful.
They got mad.
But it was not, so I understand and just want to ensure that we are, we are addressing those who are graduating and their families and being respectful of and considerate of their wants. But yes, because what I would choose and what you would choose might not be what they would choose. So.
Well, and I think it's just providing the forum for people to say their piece if they need to and feeling heard rather than us just making a decision without putting it out there. And I think that's where we made the decision that I can speak for myself because I was on the subcommittee that moved it forward to the board. That's where we made the mistake last time. And Carrie, were you on the committee with me the last? So it all seemed like a very cohesive plan. And, Eileen, I know it was before you were even here, but I remember I was so shocked. I know Jeff was on the board with us at that time. I was so shocked when people came out angry because I felt through our discussion and through our recommendation and our vote, we were doing what was best. And I just don't want to, again, I want to make sure that we are being supportive of Eileen and the graduation that you're planning, because it's a lot, and we know that it takes time, and it requires a lot, but at the same time, I don't feel comfortable sitting in the same seat, making the same mistake twice. Matt, would you like to share?
Before I weigh on this, I'd like to ask Ian, as a future graduate here, not this year, but next year, where would he choose?
I would choose Sage Park, honestly. I think that after however many, over a decade, years of work that these students have put in, that a $6,000, $7,000 difference shouldn't really be that much. And I would like to have it in my own town. With that, as my sister was saying, it shouldn't be formal. I think it should be a celebration of a new chapter in life, honestly. So I prefer to have it there instead.
Thank you, Ian.
Thanks,
Now,
Ian.
Matt, will you weigh in?
So I was in favor of moving graduation to Berlin 7 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago. And I stay with that same decision. And I think that now it's a different time. What we were up against 7 years ago is the fact that the previous 10 or 15 or 20 years, whatever it was before, it was always at Welty. We are now 3 graduation years past that, and that tradition, if you will, has been broken. So I think that this is a unique opportunity to honor the principal's request to have it in town, the students, some of the students' requests to have it in town. And when you're talking about $5,000 or $6,000, it's 1/1000th of our overall budget. I'll bet you that if we told Eileen that she had to find $5,000 to make up the difference, she could find it. So I understand why we would want to find out where the community is, because it was an ugly evening. I think the only thing worse than that was the fire program. But I think that the right choice for our community now is to have it here. we're the town of Berlin, we should celebrate here, and we do have great facilities for it now. It's not the same as 7 years ago.
My question would be, what do you do in the event of rain? Somebody told me, but I can't remember. Is it in here? Did we come here? No, no.
It's in the Gibney Gymnasium, and we had a contingency plan set for last year also, ready to go. So it's not like we'd roll it to Saturday morning. It'd be the same time that originally scheduled, so it doesn't impact people's schedule. And we stream the event also, so. Well, Nick streams the event, I should say that.
And if I'm not mistaken, we can offer more tickets to families than if we have it at Welty, correct? Because I know that when my kids graduated, it was 5.
Anything you'd like to share?
No? All right. So, yeah, I mean, we're from Berlin. We graduate in Berlin. It's to me, it's as simple as that. I was part of the group that made the decision back then that was met with some ire. I think it's a different time. My older daughter just graduated college. They did it under a tent in a parking lot on a campus where, you know, the tuition is obnoxiously expensive, but those are colleges today, right? It was a nice ceremony. It was a great affair, but, you know, the parking lot had a little bit of a tilt to it. So we were about 8 feet lower than where the graduating class was from the tilt of everything. It was kind of a weird environment. You know, Sage is flat, Sage is nice. We were just trying to do some quick math. We could probably put 3,000 people in the bleachers if we needed to. You know, it's just a crazy number of people that could come to that event. I think the contingency here would be fantastic as well. I was even just visualizing, could we have the entrance procession walk through the school and come through here as well, so that the people in here actually even get that kind of local touch. It's just a great environment. Are we gonna bat 1,000 with the weather as we go forward? Who knows? Probably not for the rest of time, but I think either way we do it, it's a nice way to do it, and it's a chance to recognize in a truly, you know, personal, sentimental way the accomplishment of these students, right? As we've talked about this for many years, the all-night graduation party is not the concern of the Board of Education. That is a completely separate group. The kids are no longer our students once they've graduated. But the reason for the all-night graduation party is because a high school graduation for some kids is the ultimate accomplishment in their life. Nothing ever in their future ever exceeds that. So I think it's only fitting that we have the culminating event for that, as while we've still got hold of them, to take place in the environment that helped cultivate that for them.
Thank you, Tim. It seems like that most of the board is in favor of making the change, and I am too, but I do not want to entertain a motion this evening, just because I want to make sure, again, that we are handling this in a public-facing manner with transparency and some time. Does anyone here think we need to have a special meeting from now until the next meeting? Or would you prefer us to have a special meeting before our next meeting to vote on it sooner, or can we wait until our next meeting? I know. It's like 6 weeks away. That's why I was saying, should we just do a special meeting? And that. And I'm not saying we're necessarily, you need to poll people or not. I don't think the board is giving any directive on that. I just want to make sure we are having this discussion, putting it out there, and then making a decision so we don't have to look back later and, question the decision that we made.
I guess the question I have, Eileen, is typically in years past, not knowing how much a lead time did you need with these vendors? Because you have, if it's end of November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, you're still 6 months ahead. I don't know if that's enough. I don't know how early you booked it last year and other years. And then we can find out if they can't, whatever we can make it as.
Right, I think if they can't wait, then I think that's when we need to call a special meeting. And as long as we can have a quorum, then we'll do that. But then that will give enough time for this to just kind of get out into the community, so people have the opportunity to come forward with the board. And my concern isn't even about, the cost or anything. I was at the last 2 years, and I thought it was so well done. I've been at Welty, and I really enjoyed Sage. And I think you guys did do a phenomenal job, and it felt like home. So if I were to vote, that would be my vote, but again, I just want to make sure that we give it some time. All right, so moving on to the next item. So Brian and I have been working on the application for the CABE Board Recognition Award. It has to be completed and submitted to CABE. However, part of the process is the board needs to make a motion and vote on it. So at the November conference, our board typically does receive an award. So is there, this is something that I look at often throughout the year. I know the Community Engagement Committee also looks at this from time to time to make sure that we are, doing what we need to do as a board, or going above and beyond as a board. I don't know, however you would like to put it. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
I just think that because it's an award through CABE, it's important that the board meet the CABE criteria that they have here, which is oftentimes, if you look through the criteria, it's being involved in various aspects of CABE because it's their award. So you can look through the document there of what's been checked, and they'll review. You have just the application, but behind the application is a stack of all the documents that they want that support each of the check marks that are there that we put together.
So before we open it up to discussion, do we have a motion for consideration?
I'll move that the board approve the application for the 2022 CABE Board Recognition Awards.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion by Carrie, second by Tim. Any discussion? All right, move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 7-0. So we are going to be shortly going into executive session, inviting the superintendent from executive session. Once we exit executive session, we'll adjourn the meeting so we don't need Nick and his crew to stay on. But I do just want to thank everyone. This is our last meeting as this board as a collective. So even if just Tim's seat changes, it's still going to be a brand new board. We are going to have a new board dynamic. So I want to thank everyone for, first off, allowing me the opportunity to serve as your board chair, all the work we've done over the past year. Thank you, Tim, for your service. And thank you, everyone, for, being a collective board. So I just wanted to share that with all of you. And do we have a motion to move into executive session, inviting the superintendent?
I move to enter into executive session to discuss a personnel matter, inviting the superintendent.
Do we have a second? Second. Motion by Tim, second by Carrie. All those in favor? Aye. 7-0, and no need to stay. We will adjourn after executive session. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for a great meeting.
Can you open the update room before you go? Thank you.